Welcome to the Ferrari Marketplace podcast. Today we're going to take a deep dive into the legend itself, the Ferrari 250 GTO. With only 36 ever built, the GTO sits atop of the collector car market. With its racing pedigree, unmatched beauty, its history with some of the motorsport's most prolific drivers, it is the ultimate expression of Ferrari's 1960s racing dominance. But today, we're not just going to talk about any GTO. We're specifically going to talk about chassis 3729 GT. This is the only 250 GTO that left the factory in Bianco Speciale, or for us that don't speak Italian, that's white. And we believe it might have been at the request of John Coombs, being that he was British and didn't want to have a red car, but they haven't confirmed that. One of my guests might be able to, delve into that a smidge, but we found out. And for now, though, but the first time in, multiple decades, this GTO is coming to auction. Specifically, it's going to be coming to Mecum Kissimmee auction in January, the world's largest collector car auction event. But today, joining me also on this is going to be Sam Murtaugh, COO of Mecum Auctions, Chris Miele from the Prancing Horse of Nashville, and Don Weber from the publisher of Garage Style Magazine. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's just jump right into about the car itself, this specific GTO. Now, there's some really great specifics about this car that make it, in my opinion, one of the more collectible ones of the 36. Obviously all of them are collectible, but, there's some really good specifics about this car itself that I think makes it kind of stand out from the other ones. One, it's just one of 8 right-hand drive cars. My opinion, out of 36, 1 to 8, that kind of makes it a little bit more special. Chris, what are your thoughts on that being one of only 8 right-hand drive cars?
Well, obviously it was sold to a UK owner, so the cars are right-hand drive over there. So he, it's one thing, it's a car that he preferred to have. They're just used to it. For us in the States, it's a little odd for us, but yeah, for sure. Right-hand drive cars are super desirable in certain markets.
I would like to make one point back up for just a second on the, the 1-8 one right-hand drive cars, which obviously, shrinks the rarity from 36 down to 8. But the fact that this is painted white, it is the only one painted white from the factory, basically being the only one, regardless of the right-hand drive, the only one painted white of the whole group is the most powerful piece of this car from my perspective. Whether it's right or left-hand drive, pick whatever you like, but the fact that it's the only one in white, that is the spectacular fact to me from a rarity standpoint.
No, I agree. It's I think it looks spectacular in white myself. I think it looks great in white. That's for sure. So it's it makes it stand out, and especially the fact that you've had a lot of them that have been repainted different colors and that. But this day and age, it's always good to have it go back to its factory color. And being that one of one, you'll know which special car you have out of all of them when you're up.
Yeah,
or something.
No question. If you want to stand out in an elite crowd, of which being an owner of a GTO puts you at the the highest of the pedestal, but to have the only one in white puts you and to stand out in white. To see it just the white color in that car and the lines in that car, it's spectacular.
Another great thing, or I guess special unique thing about this car itself is everyone that is familiar with the knows GTOs, they all think they have blue interior. But Chris, you got a great point with this. That car actually came with it from the factory with the black interior?
No, it came with a blue interior, but when it immediately was delivered, because in period with the number 10 on it, it was the car that was run by Graham Hill. And from the best of my knowledge, I believe that the car had the black seats, and that was only weeks after the car was delivered. So I think that's what they changed up on it when the car got delivered to the UK.
Wondering why they would do that so quickly, switch it from the blue. Did all the GTOs come blue or were there some? Is it blue and black? Was there another color else came in?
No, there was a few different colors. There was some that were delivered with red. There were some that were delivered with green. There was even black interiors. So it was just something at the time they used almost like a Nomex type material, so the driver wouldn't slide around in his overalls and his racing suit. And then they would have, it was almost like a vinyl on the sides that was used on the side bolsters. But the seat's a very, very, very small seat that's in that car. So it's just it's super easy to retrim and put, whatever color you want it. But I'm assuming that Coombs, that was his look, that his color, his livery that he had was white with black, because it was obviously requested that way.
Yeah, so there we go. There's another little tidbit about making that car even more special. So if anyone out there listening knows why they did it so quickly, shoot me a message, because we'd like to know if we get an answer to that. That'd be fantastic. So, but that's good to know, because I always I think of blue when I think of GTO on the interior. It's just something that would stand out, but black, white interior, I mean, that's fantastic. So, but again, something unique about that car.
Jack Sears had the car. Jack Sears had the car from 1970 all the way to 1999. I mean, he had a long ownership with the car, and that's when John Shirley purchased the vehicle.
Before, almost 30 years is impressive for keeping a car of that nature. Especially, I mean, what did he buy that car for? I mean, I think it wasn't all that much back in, what was it, 1971? He bought it.
Oh yeah, so in 1971, that car probably at the absolute most would have been probably $10,000 to $15,000. I know that the Nick Mason car was sold for about $35,000 to $40,000 from Ronald Stern to Nick Mason in 1978 or 79. So I'd say in the early 70s, it was probably somewhere around 15, maybe 20,000, somewhere in the neighborhood. So it's quite the investment.
Yeah, a little bit.
Look at it.
That's a nice return. And as a little side story, Nick Mason utilized his car as collateral to fund, was the mid 80s, the Pink Floyd reunion tour or whatever. They put that up as collateral for, I don't know, it's like $1 million or something like that to be able to pay for their tour. And that came back tenfold just on the tour alone. So that's always kind of an interesting little story with that, putting that up for stuff like that. And that's always kind of humorous, I always find.
Great story. Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of that car, this car is really, it's never been, I want to say wrecked, but really, I mean, it might have had a ding or two here or there, but it's never had anything of serious consequence where, quarter panels, all this stuff had to get replaced or anything like that, correct? I mean, it's pretty solid as an original car, right?
Well, Mike Parks had an accident with it in '63, which is well documented. But, it had its battle scars. And the way that it worked, if you were racing for Ferrari, if you weren't pushing the car right to the very edge, you were no longer going to be a racing driver for Enzo Ferrari. It was first or nothing with them. It wasn't, second or third place. They weren't satisfied with that. It was win at all costs. And the drivers put the cars to their limits, and they pushed them right to the edge. And sometimes they went a little bit over the edge. But to your point, what you mentioned earlier, was it completely in an accident? Some of the other GTOs have had some catastrophic crashes. No, this car didn't. It was raced in period. It had its battle scars, as they say, but structurally, the car is sound. And it's, the way that the car always was.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That helps too. It's, to your point, some of these have been, I would say, damaged beyond recognition, but, they had some significant damage, and having something that's that original, close to original, is fantastic as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure. There's a photo of the car on 18 August with Graham Hill running the car, and it's got the 3 vents on it. So, it was definitely a 3-vent car originally, because there's other photos when you look at it. The green one that I mentioned to you, it was actually a little bit earlier car. And there's cars that were later than it that actually had the 2 vents as well. So there had to be a point with Scaglietti when they went ahead and they built the body on these cars. It had to be a request, but I don't have I'm just going off of the photos and everything that I've seen. But candidly, it wasn't something that Coombs, you got to be clear about that it was added afterwards. There's a few of them that have the 3 vents on the side. There are a few cars that have the 3 vents, because you can clearly see it in the photo. as far as, I know we touched on it early. But
Yeah, I'm
even
looking
the
at
holes,
yeah.
the holes in the front, they had those 3 vent holes in the front, but there's other ones that were in the bonnet, and cars had different things in them. This car, it hasn't been modified. This is the way that this car was ordered.
When in the build sequence, what number? When was this one built?
I'll tell you right now. Hang on. This is car number. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 12.
12. Okay, so they had some, I guess you would say, testing, or I'd say racing done prior to that one being built. So they probably modified that after knowing that needed more cooling.
Yeah, and it's funny because you look at, on the most part, the cars were all the same. One of them has a different differential. 2 of them actually have a different differential in them. And then there's some that, have a stripe on them, which is, it's noted obviously originally how it left, but they were producing them. This was the 3rd one for the UK. So I believe it's the 3rd right-hand drive car, at least what I'm seeing here. And it's number 12, but most of them are Rosso China, but some of them are Rosso Corsa is what it shows here, which candidly, I didn't even know that. I don't know if that's a screw up in the computer or not, because I didn't know that was actually a color at any point until way, way later, racing red. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
'cause
it
that's
actually, no, it is. Oh, yeah, I see another car with it as well. I see 3 cars with it. So, yeah, it's quite unique, this car, but it's definitely, when I look at this car, 3729, it's the 12th one that was
12th one.
produced.
The 3 the vents on the hood, on the front or in the nose, are those, can you open and close those
Yes.
in motion?
No, not in
Or-
motion. No, you just go ahead.
Okay.
They have, quick fasteners on them, and you just put them in. So they obviously did it for cooling, because if it was, they don't want the car to run too hot or obviously too cool.
Yeah. Because I mean, my mind would think, because obviously at Le Mans specifically, and a lot of the other tracks back then, they had a lot of very long straights, and obviously aerodynamics come into play in regards to that. Because wasn't it like the early cars, they came to the conclusion or realized that it was having a lot of nose lift at higher speeds, so they had to do something.
That's when the early days of aerodynamics were really starting to kick in, and they started to figure out, hey, we got to go ahead and keep this car cool or hot. But, the more openings that you have on a car, the more it slows it down, because that's just that much more air that's not slipping over the car. It's going into it. So it's kind of a balancing act at that point. If you look at the grille on a 250 GTO, it's quite small. And as a sidebar, when you look at the car like the 275 car, the hen car, the sister car to Dana's car, during the race, they had to get wire snippers in 65 and cut a giant hole in the front of the car just to get more air into the car. And that's really the successor to the 250 GTO.
Yeah. I mean, it's very similar in style, too, if you think about it. If you look at it.
It is. And candidly, it's a much prettier car. The 275 is a much, much prettier car.
The proportions are more correct, I guess you would say, for the size of the car. Most definitely. Definitely. So what do we know about the story here with Coombs sending it over to Jaguar? I mean, obviously you want to start, if you want to reverse engineer something, you want to take the best that's out there at the time.
Yeah, well, Coombs, was, as Chris mentioned, he was British, and obviously was heavy into the the Jaguar, associated with Jaguar, and it said that the Jaguar engineers wanted to get their hands on that to figure out what's going on, what's making this car so great, and to be able to have an opportunity with the relationship with Coombs and get their hands on a GTO to figure out looking into that car and figuring out what they could use from that to prototype their lightweight E-types.
Hey, Chris, we had talked a little bit beforehand. What Coombs did a few special things to kind of, I want to say, differentiate. I don't know if make it better. What did Coombs do to the car itself to, I guess, in his mind, improve it?
Coombs, I believe, did he did put the increased cooling in it. So the third vent, most of the cars have the two vents on them. This car has three vents on the right-hand side. And he made some other small modifications to the car because he was obviously competing with the car and they were showing the car and running it everywhere they could in the UK. But the exact specifics of what he did, candidly, I don't have it here in front of me.
Yeah, I think it was the louvers on the hood, I believe, was something he added. Coombs added, and I think air ducts in the front. I think he replaced those fog lights and made those functional air, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, I think
some small ones.
Yeah, and people, got to always keep in mind that these, yes, you could drive them on the street, but these were race cars. That's what they were built for back in the day. It was to compete and compete very competitively, very well as at that point. So, people sit there and look how minimalist the interior is and what it's got. It doesn't have any creature comforts. This thing had one purpose, and that was to go fast and win races. And doing extra cooling, everything would be critical back then too, especially front engine V12 is going to need to breathe as much as it possibly can. Okay, I want to get into though, our next topic, kind of going into. I want to talk a little bit more about Mecum Kissimmee itself, because this is becoming probably the preeminent auction of the year in everyone's mind, just because not just volume, but the quality of cars you guys are getting, Sam. I mean, how's this evolving where you guys are starting to get a lot more of these, highly collectible elite cars? And how's this changing Mecum's, I would say, DNA in regards to its core brand? I mean, is it something that's changing, or what are you guys trying to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, the Kissimmee itself, the auction itself, and I've been with the company, I think this is my 18th or 19th year. And so, I think I was 2004 or 5 was my first Kissimmee auction. The auction, I think, started in 2000 was the very first one, which started behind a laundromat in Kissimmee in Old Town and evolved over to the, I think with like 50 cars in it. And then by that time, it moved to Osceola Heritage Park when I was first there. And it was one tent. The auction and the cars were all inside one tent in the corner of the property. But every single year since then, it has grown almost double every single year after year. Started out with a couple, when I was there, it was probably 200 or 300 cars. It was started out as an all Corvette only auction, I think in conjunction with an NCRS event that was down there, and just sort of evolved. Dana decided to open up to all types of cars, and it really just took fire and never looked back. And it's grown and grown exponentially year after year. I think somewhere around 2010 ish, it took hold as the world's largest collector car auction with the volume of cars that were at one event, and continue to grow past that. We're pushing 5,000 cars now. So from 50 cars behind a laundromat to 5,000 cars in 13 days long, it has just become a spectacle. It's the greatest car show on earth, in my opinion, from, as far as where you can see everything under the sun, from, every type of vehicle that you can imagine is there that week. And it really sets the tone for the collector car market for the rest of the year.
How do you guys go about, having that volume of cars, obviously over multiple days? How do you, I guess, start organizing? Okay, we're going to have these go on this day, these on this day. And as I kind of, I love it, the moniker leading up to Super Saturday, when you have all the big hitters. I mean, how do you guys kind of go about figuring out what goes where?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's anytime you put 4,000 to 5,000 cars in one place, how do you disseminate what needs to go where, and how do you do that? And we do that by value. The weekends are our most attended events. Both the first weekend and the second weekend are the most heavily attended. So, the very first day one, will be, relatively expensive, what we like to refer to as entry-level collectibles, things of people that are just looking to get into the market, dip their toe in the water and get into it. We've got a lot more affordable cars in those early days and sort of apex and lead ourselves into that first weekend. And we get some really great cars that first weekend. So the type of quality you would see in some of our bigger days at some of our other events throughout the country, throughout the year. And then we do a bit of a reset. There's sort of two big crowds. You have the first weekend crowd, which is a little bit more regional. And then the national and international crowd starts to come in, creep day after day as we lead into the second weekend. So, the Tuesday is slightly smaller and it gets bigger on Wednesday, which gets bigger on Thursday, bigger to Friday, and then on to Saturday, and everything culminates at the peak on Saturday. So Friday and Saturday, the second weekend, are our two biggest days, and it's heavy metal from start to finish on both those days. So the cool thing is, for anyone that's in the hobby at whatever level, you can get involved with Kissimmee and be a part of it and connect with it. And, whether as a buyer or a seller, but even as, from a spectator's perspective, to see cars that are pretty attainable up to the aspirational vehicles that to watch these guys, trading high dollar, extremely valuable cars into that second weekend is what makes Kissimmee so special.
Yeah, I mean, it's great because a lot of people can, either it's their first collectible, the only collectible they're going to buy. But to your point is there's something there for everyone. You're getting not just price point, but style, genre. Heavy. I mean, there's something there for everybody.
And cars like this GTO that we're talking about here, I mean, obviously is the headliner for Saturday, the second weekend. Cars like this, as Kissimmee's continue to grow and the international attention that it receives and the amount of people that come to it from all 50 states in the United States and from, I think it was 30 different countries around the world that participate in this event. The fact that we have that big of an audience and that amount of eyeballs focused on one location at one point in time has really opened the eyes to a lot of folks to realize that if I want to sell my car and I want to bring the most attention to it in one place and maximize the exposure, Kissimmee's the place to do that. And I think that, the more and more people realize, you can take a car like this and go to Monterey and compete with 6 different auction events going on the same weekend on the same day at the same time, or you can put this car on a pedestal in front of an international audience that's arguably bigger and find success.
Yeah. What other events, obviously, because being a multi-day event over, a week and a half, 2 weeks roughly, what other events also go on during that? Because I know there's other things that go on during the auction itself, because it's not 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's, cars going across the block. What else you guys have going on there?
Well, it is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. with cars going across the block. That does happen. Oh, yeah. No, we're bell to bell. We're selling 350 on some of the days, almost 400 cars in a day. So we've got to sell that amount of cars, you have to work that hard and work that long. But, the event itself, we've got entertainment going outside with music and things going outside. We've got an adventure zone for kids, for families to come out and enjoy themselves, and they can get involved and do, automotive orientated events. With the kids, we'll have speakers and seminars going on at our midway stage out front. We do car parades. So cars that are it's not just the cars don't just sit on display forever until they're time to go to the block. We do some hand selects and we do car parades across our midways, like we like to call it. So folks can sit and watch the cars run, drive, listen to them. We've got a huge food truck area. I think of over a dozen food trucks that are out there with all different types of food for people to get involved with and hang out. It's just from a car enthusiast perspective, it's like Disneyland or Disney World, I should say, as we're in Orlando. But there's just a ton going on. It's very stimulating.
This day and age too, how is, having to, work in social media, YouTube, and obviously you guys are, obviously broadcasting now too. How has that changed your guys' approach? And has that really helped you guys acquire and grow in regards, not just volume, but obviously the type and, cars you guys are getting?
Yeah, we're very much also in the entertainment business. We have our show, our auctions are broadcast live on ESPN, ESPN Plus. We launched Mecum TV on the Roku channel, so we have 24/7 Mecum auctions rolling. We're producing content for that. We're premiering a show on the GTO. It premieres Thursday at 8 p.m. on the Roku channel on Mecum TV. Between YouTube and all the content we produce for that, social media, we have a whole team dedicated to social media, from Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all the like. And, we're very much an entertainment company just as much as we are an auction company now. I mean, with the kind of cars that cross our block and the cool stories that we're able to tell, we've got content coming out of our ears, and we love telling the story with video, and it's fun. It's why I got into this. Yeah.
I mean, that's one great thing about this, say industry or just cars itself is, knowing the story behind a lot of it, because every car's got a story, and it's fantastic to learn a lot of these things, and delving into those creates, I want to say a mystique, but it really kind of can grow make that car
Yeah,
special.
no, absolutely. I mean, the amount of cars that we see year after year, I think Chris could probably would feel the same. I mean, we're in the cars are our work. That's our life. It's what we do
Wow.
day in, day out, every day. But when you find a car with a great story behind it, and the people that you meet because of that story, or the connections that you make because of that, that's what makes this stuff cool. The cars are great, and then people ask us all the time, "What's favorite car? What's your favorite car? What car do you want?" It's To me, it changes all the time. I mean, it's about the people and the stories that you hear and learn, and the connections that you make along the way is what makes this hobby super cool and fun and great to be a part of.
Oh, definitely. Now, you guys, I'm looking at it. I mean, as of now, you have 70 plus Ferraris as of now, basically going across the block down in Kissimmee. Obviously culminating in the GTO, but you have a very, very nice selection of Ferraris that are going to be crossing that block.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Probably one of the best collections of Ferraris that we've ever offered for sale.
Yeah, the Bachmann
You know,
collection, which we'll do in a couple of weeks. We're going to do an episode on that one as well because there's some very special vehicles in that one as well. But let's get into specifically back to our 3729 GT Ferrari 250 GTO. Obviously the story behind that. One thing that I think is very special too, and what's great about this car is the long-term ownership history that this car's had. Chris, can you touch on that a little bit regarding to basically just only really a couple owners?
Yeah, John Shirley got the car in 1999, and John, I believe at that point in time, it was only shortly thereafter he was still working. He was the former CEO of Microsoft, and he got the vehicle and he used it quite a bit. I mean, he took it to all the Cavallino Classics. He took it to the Monterey historic races. I mean, he really, really had a lot of fun with the car and showed it off. And everyone, as Sam mentioned, knew it as the white Ferrari GTO. So it's a real special car. And obviously, John was heavily involved with, a lot of other things that he did at Pebble Beach as far as showing other vehicles and doing concours events. So he's a well-known name. So he did it from all sides. He was not only showing cars, he was doing track days with cars and heavily involved with doing everything, even involved obviously with Ferrari Classic K, getting the car certified with Ferrari Classic K.
Yeah, he's been an outstanding caretaker, and obviously we can see for multiple decades, which is great. Then the previous owner of that, Jack Sears, he had it for almost 20 plus years himself, which was great to see. And they thoroughly enjoyed the car. If you look at the history on that, racing historics and everything like that, that car was out there in the public quite a bit, and which is great because you need to share these cars out there with the public and see it. Because, it's beauty in motion, I guess you could say. I mean, it's just a fantastic car. But, you talk, Chris, you touched on, the car's obviously got its red book. It's got the Classic K certification, go through it. And, basically that's Ferrari going through and saying, yes, this is how this car came from the factory. It's got all, everything on there and doing it. But for this auction itself coming up, what would need to be done or what gets done to the car itself, especially a car at that level, getting it ready for the auction? What gets done prior to the auction?
Candidly, John, he has his own gentleman that works for him, Fred, and they really take care of all the cars. I mean, the cars are extremely well maintained, the whole collection that he has. And this car in particular, obviously, was no different than any other one. That being said, when John first had the car, it was red. When he first purchased the car, it was red. And then in 2008, I believe, the car got the Classic K certification. And that's when they went ahead and Ferrari made a new engine block, and that was installed in the car. And it has the designation on there, the internal number, 2300/62E, E for Echo, which designates that it is a GTO motor, which is done right from the factory. So at some point early in its life, the engine was replaced. There was a 250 short wheelbase Competizione engine that was put in for some time. Then there was a 250 GTE engine that was put in. But right now, it has the proper specification motor that's in there from the factory. So the car was mechanically maintained, but it was never restored. The car is still, not a complete frame off restoration. So John had the car, it was red, and John used a gentleman, I believe Butch Dennison did the car up in Washington State, and he brought the car back to white. But initially, John Shirley wasn't convinced to make the car white. It was the guys at Ferrari Classic K. It was John. It was actually Marco Arrighi who really pressed the issue with him. And then sure enough, John painted the car in 2016, I believe. And then the first time it came out was at Windsor Castle in the UK. And that's when, the big puff was, hey, there's a white GTO, because for many, 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 many years, the car was red. So I don't think a lot of people knew. And the internet isn't what it is today. I mean, every year it seems like the internet evolves and there was no AI. So, unless you went ahead and scrubbed it and found photos, many of the photos that you found were from very, very early in the days. But, for a good period of its time, the car was red. And now it's back to the original way that it left the factory, which is white.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks great. And, probably back then too, because there was, in the collector car world, there was that period where it was like basically restored to better than new, not so much really follow, hey, this is how it left the factory. Then all of a sudden we went into the barn finds and everything, but then all of a sudden, hey, let's go back to originality. It's fantastic. He did that, went back to the white, and he got talked into or convinced that, hey, that's the way to go. And obviously it turned out, I think, was an excellent choice because it just stands out from the rest, because you get it all lined up, red, black, but then just one white one, stick it in there. So, I mean, it's great to see.
For sure. When you look at the list and you look at the original colors from the factory, there's some obviously silvers, green, white, but to your point, primarily Rosacina. I mean, most of them are red.
Obviously he's been the caretaker for this car for a long time. There's quite a few out there, just to name like Nick Mason, Lord Bramford, they've had their cars for many years, which is great to see. And Lord Bramford's got two, which is good for him, but they utilize the cars. It's great to see that amongst all them, but they really got out there and do that. But one question I got, you mentioned the engine block getting recast. Sam, I'm looking at, description, what you guys have, that's coming with another motor, correct?
Yeah, the engine that Chris described is in the car, and then there is a spare motor that will come with it. So, John, for as many events as he participated in, it was to be able to have a motor like that you could really get after and get on and not worry about, and, be able to protect the engine that Chris described and make sure that stays as pristine and proper as it needs to be. But having another engine to be able to use to drive the car. John drove the car. He drove it respectfully, but he enjoyed, when we were out there with him a couple of months ago, he very explicitly stated, that, cars are meant to be driven. These cars are meant to be enjoyed. This race car it wants you to drive it. So being able to have that ability to drive it, as aggressively as you want to, but not to worry as much about the motor. You'll have that opportunity to swap a motor if need be for the new owner.
Yeah,
that's motor. That's
there you go.
What's that?
He called it the hot rod motor.
That's right, the hot rod motor.
Well, that's common too with a lot of higher value cars like that. Is they drop in a different engine and keep the original next to it, so keep that one safe, and then just go at, which is great because that means they're getting out there using their car and participating in. This day and age, there's so many historic events that you can participate in, across the globe. And this car will get you into every single one, no questions asked. I mean, that's like your golden ticket to participate in all these events. So whoever the new owner may be, the palace is open, so to speak, in regards to just attending any event you'd want. And not to mention, I'm pretty aware, and Chris, I don't know if you can confirm it, but don't the GTO owners do their own kind of little private events every few years?
They did. So a few years ago, they had a couple different reunions. And if you look it up, you'll see that they had the 50th anniversary GTO tour in 2012. And they actually had another one that they put together with Canosa, who runs Cavallino events. And they got to get together. And they try to get as many of the guys together. But it's a real special crew, obviously. The gentlemen that have the cars. And some of the cars have swapped in and swapped out. Some of the guys that had them, and, the Rick Workmans and different guys like that had the cars and they've sold them. But for the most part, into what you mentioned earlier, you got Nick Mason, you got Anthony Bamford, you got, the Brandon Wangs, you got all these different guys that have had the cars for long-term ownership. And they do get together for a reunion every so many years. It's not every single year. It seems like it's every few years. I think every 5, to be honest.
Getting back to, mentioning the classic game, we're talking about the engine block, obviously the Red Book's one of the big things, but what's the amount of documentation this car comes with? Because I think that's one thing that's key, especially in these higher value cars, is documentation history. I mean, what level of documentation? I'm sure it's unbelievable with this car, but what like documentation wise, what's going to be coming with the car?
Sam can probably touch on that because I didn't see the documentation, but I know that there is plenty of stuff with John for sure.
Yeah, I have not physically reviewed all the documentation, but I did see a couple of big books sitting on the desk with a lot in there. I mean, I was amazed at how many historic photos of all the different races that this car participated in at the beginning, 62 to 69-ish, 68-ish, something like that, with all the different photo documentation we have on this car, and as it went through all the different drivers and the different races that it was participating in, was pretty impressive. Obviously the red book, and I know there's other. I mean, it's got the ownership history is documented all the way back to the beginning. It's got good stuff.
Yeah, be impressive, and I'm sure it would take someone a few weeks to go through all that. But as us being all car nerds, we'd sit there and eat it all up, just every single line, because just seeing that history, knowing what that thing did, where it raced, who's raced it. I mean, because you got Graham Hill, Roy Salvadori. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The people that have gotten behind the wheel of that car and put it through its paces back in the day is just unbelievable. I mean, it's fantastic. Yeah. Chris, I'm going to have you kind of touch on this. Mecum, obviously, what they're getting now and get involved in the level of cars they're doing. I mean, it's just, they're, top notch. What was the choice? I mean, when, about going to Mecum, what was the thought about, hey, let's just, this car is going to be best served at Mecum?
So what happened was, originally I was at Retromobile in Paris and, doing your normal visits, you're meeting all the different people. And I bumped into one of the Pebble Beach judges. His name is Richard Adato. He's also an author and writes some great books on French cars. And we had dinner, and we had a really good dinner together. And then the following day, we met the year before and had dinner as well. And then the following day, he went back to Washington. He's a very good friend of John Shirley. And I went ahead and, flew back to Nashville. So a couple weeks later, we had the event that was at Amelia Island. And I see Richard as I'm checking out of the hotel. And he says to me, hey, where are you heading back to? I said, I'm heading back to Orlando, catching a flight. He said, you mind if I tag along? So he jumps in the car. We're probably an hour into the ride. And he looks at me and he says, hey, you got anybody for John's 250 GTO? I almost went off the road, to be honest with you. And I looked at him and I said, you're serious? He said, yeah. And the first person that popped in my mind was Dana, because Dana's a collector. So I picked up the phone that evening. I called Dana and we had a chat. And Dana said, listen, I was already involved with helping Dana with the 275 LM. We were restoring that car and I was looking after that project in Italy. And I said to him, is this something you'd want to add to the collection? And he said, you know what? Let's have a conversation with John. We had a conversation with John. We went out there, and Dana, John, myself, we all sat together, and the decision was made. Hey, it was best suited because it wasn't something that Dana was going to put into his collection. It was best suited to bring it to public auction. So obviously John's still the owner of the car, and we connected Dana and John together, and it was a match made in heaven, as they say, because as Sam pointed out, and you pointed out, there's over 70 cars going to Kissimmee. We're going to talk about the Bachmann collection in the future, which is a real special collection. So to my knowledge, I don't know of any Ferrari collection or this amount of Ferraris that's ever been presented at one auction at one time, ever, at any point in time. So it's super exciting. Dana, from a personal level, he's got an amazing Ferrari collection. He's a real true connoisseur to the brand. And he shows his cars. He's obviously involved with Pebble Beach. He does the Cavallino events. He does the Amelia Island events. So Dana's obviously the right guy that's personally involved. It's not just a business. Dana has a true love for the cars. So I really honestly felt, when the conversation came up and it just evolved so quickly, it really, really, really went well. And it was great to be part of it, to see the meeting with John and obviously with Dana together. It was a great, great time, and it's worked out well.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what the awesome thing about Dana is. He is a true collector. I mean, he has a passion for these cars as well, and seeing his unbelievable collections, fantastic as well. And Sam, how did when Dana kind of dropped that bomb on everyone else at Mecum? What was the thoughts and enthusiasm around the offices?
Our marketing team got extremely excited really quick. I mean, obviously, the nice thing is, when you're as promoters of auctions and when with headliners, and headliners like this, especially to get as early as we're able to do and be able to, kick off our Kissimmee campaigns with a car of this magnitude was exciting for all of us, and to, really, set the tone early, and march towards January. I mean, we announced the GTO was coming to Kissimmee. We announced it in Monterey in August at our auction there. So really that, being able to launch the campaigns for Kissimmee in the middle of August with a headliner like this GTO, it was the best. We were excited.
No, it's, with not just that car, but with also the amount of other Ferraris that are going to be crossing the block in Kissimmee, this is really going to kind of set the tone for the market in essence, because there's, you have your top end, you have down, I'm not going to say bottom end with like some 308s and 328s, but, this is really going to kind of set the tone in regards to where the market's going into 2026. I mean, how do you guys feel about that in regards to, I mean, that's in my mind, it's kind of a big responsibility in regards to all the eyes that are going to be on you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we're up to that task, that challenge, and Kissimmee for years now has been that market tone setter for whatever type of vehicle that, for all the different markets, right? So whether it be muscle cars or Corvettes or Ferraris or whatever. I mean, the fact that we kick it off in January, we start the year off with such a bang with this auction, it sets the tone for the market for the rest of the year, no doubt about it. So we do it on an annual basis, and we're excited to do it for Ferrari.
How do you guys feel, obviously going forward, and as you delve into these more, do you guys see yourself sticking to your true path in regards to how you guys do your auctions in regards to, hey, we'll start from A to B, or do you see yourself maybe doing something a little different with, like, say, a separate high-end type situation?
Well, I mean, we do it all together, but we also, we do what's necessary for the different types of vehicles, and set the stage. I mean, the displays that we put together and produce in Kissimmee are second to none, and we'll do these cars justice for what they deserve, and having the opportunity to have these on display is a hell of an attraction for the people that come just to watch the show. But to segregate where we position these cars in the auction, how we put them on display, how we represent them, how we present them. It's taken Kissimmee to another level once again, as I described, as we continue this growth trajectory for Kissimmee, and adding this layer on top of what's already extremely successful and has become the world's largest collector car auction. To have this on top of that is incredible. We're proud to do it. We're excited to have it. We're pleased that the sellers have given us the opportunity to present these cars for sale at auction in Kissimmee, and we're excited to see what the results.
Yeah, it's going to be a packed room, that's for sure. There's going to be a decent sized crowd, and I know I plan on trying to be there for it as well, especially seeing all those go across, because it's going to be fantastic. It's you have a legacy car like that. I mean, when was the last time your GTO crossed the block in a open auction like this? It's been a few years, hasn't it?
A couple of years ago, there was one that passed over the block, and there was a Series 2 that passed. But there's never been a white one. So,
no.
That's what sets this car apart. So, it's and look, it's we kind of touched on it earlier about, Sam mentioned it. I talked about it a little bit about John, how involved he was in some of the cars. They've been restored. There was one that was totally restored, and it didn't look like that, obviously, when it left the factory in 62 or 63, when that particular car left. This car has a real period correct feel to it. And it's just an amazing car. And then, on top of it, you have the hot rod motor. It's white. The provenance of who owned the car, who drove the car, Mike Parks. You mentioned, obviously, Graham Hill, Formula One world champion. I mean, you got IndyCar champion. You got really, really, really special people that race this car in period. It's a real special car. It really is.
Do you obviously, to bid on this car, Sam, because obviously that level of this car where it's at price wise, and I'm not going to get into say, hey, what do you think it's going to go for? Because we're not even going to touch that. What does someone got to do for a car of that level in regards to dollar? Like, what would someone's registering? Whatnot? I mean, is there anything different they have to do that wouldn't be different from standard, just registering to bid?
Well, depends on every situation is different. Obviously, their relationships are a big component to this, and but it's if we have someone that's comes out of nowhere from somewhere in Europe or that we're not aware of, obviously there'll be conversations that'll have, and we'll set their financial verification up, get them registered to bid with, understand that they have the means to purchase that car, and references are always helpful and things like that. But you get to a car like this, it gets to be a case by case. I mean, rarely do you have someone that just goes and registers a bid online and just pops out of the woodwork. But it's not to say it's never happened, but but yeah, I mean, it's an easy process. Getting registered is easy. Getting a hold of us and having a conversation with our bidder services team and getting connected. Chris obviously is helping with with his contacts and throughout the country and around the world. So yeah, it's not a overly complex process, but it's you can't just log in and push a button without any type of financial verification.
Bid.
Yeah.
Your media pass request has probably gone through the roof.
Yeah, there's a lot of media attention. There's a lot coming in on that, and that actually, vetting some of these media folks is probably more difficult than vetting some of these high net worth individuals.
Is there, you mentioned, on your Roku channel, you guys are going to doing a special on this car specifically. Is there anything else? And I would assume that on the Roku, it gets played multiple times. I would assume.
Yeah, it'll re-air multiple times. I think it's going to re-air 4 times a day after we premiere it Thursday, November 6th. It will premiere at 8 p.m. Eastern on Mecum TV on Roku, and then after it premieres, it'll cycle through and re-air. I think 4 times a day between now and the Kissimmee auction in January.
Yeah, for those listening, be sure to check out all of Mecum's social media pages and sites, because they are doing a wonderful, wonderful job in regard to showcasing that car and just doing an exceptional job and just showing what that car is and just how special it is. Because it's just unbelievable car. So, yeah. But kind of wrapping up here, I wanted to see if, Chris, you got anything else you wanted to add, maybe jump in and say about this, or maybe about Mecum itself, or about Kissimmee, or about the car, the GTO?
No, Sam knows. I had a friend of a friend who said, hey, what are you doing? I said, I'm in Orlando because I live here and I commute back and forth to Nashville. He said, why don't you go on over there and go check out the Mecum auction? So I went over there and we spent a couple $1 million. We sold the 250 Tour de France. And, I kind of walked in. It was quite of a rainy day, and Dave Purvis picked me up and we were dodging, some puddles getting in and out. But it was, it turned out to be a great relationship. And, I've helped Dana obviously with restoring another car that's going to be showing in 2026. But great people. I've been in the business for many, many years, for decades. And, just everybody has the same attitude of like what you see here, with Sam and everyone else on the team. It's real. It's authentic. It's not. And again, it's not that anyone's going to go ahead and just, give you smoke and mirrors and not be your friend. They're just true, genuine, real people. And everybody's glad to help. And it's just been a fun journey for me, from Dana all the way down to the guys that load the trucks, the guys that transport the cars. Everyone is just a class act. So that says a lot, because I've been doing this a long, long time. And I can't really say I've met, honestly, you're always going to meet what I call the bad actor. Haven't met him yet. Sam got rid of them. He's filtered all these bad people out, but there's really, really good folks there. It's been fun. And I enjoy it. And I'm really excited about this auction, because it's going to be like I mentioned earlier, it's going to be the biggest Ferrari auction at one place on one time ever. Yeah. You're never going to see the quality of cars at one place, at one venue that you're going to see at this auction. This is going to be historic. And like Sam said, greatest spectacle in sports, they always used to say, was the Indy 500. Well, this will be the greatest spectacle in auctions for sure. This is it. You got to be part of it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, definitely, if you got the time to get down there, I would definitely try and make it in person. And one person I want to bring in, because Don's been kind of lurking in the background here, but Don, he knows Kissimmee very well. Don, what can you add regarding about Mecum Kissimmee auction, and what can people expect, and what are your thoughts on that?
I enjoy the Mecum auctions. Everybody must go. That is what I say. No, I'm sorry for just kind of lingering in the background here. You guys kind of hit turbo boost and bam, it was off to the races. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to let you guys drive the bus on this one. And just, if you need some help, I'm there. If you want me to just, throw in a funny voice, I'm there. Sam, I've known him, God, going on 20 years now, Sam, which is really kind of scary, but it's interesting. The Kissimmee event really has blown up, and it is a fantastic event to attend. The weather can't be better. I mean, where else do you want to be in January? In Florida. The weather is absolutely spectacular. It's perfect down there. There's always something for everyone to do. Everyone in the family has something to do. Even, forgive me, Sam, even if you're not on site at the auction. Just Kissimmee alone, Florida alone, there's fabulous stuff to do for everybody in the family. So, I think if you haven't been, you're cheating yourself. You need to get down there and enjoy what Mecum is putting on, because it truly is world class.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Don. With as far as the area, I mean, the fact that where our auction is in Kissimmee is pretty well centrally located, obviously in Orlando. We got Disney World, so we're coming down with the family. The family, if they're not, come check out the cars, but if the family wants to break out and go to Disney World, there's world-class golf all around us. There's world-class luxury hotels within a 20-mile radius. I mean, anything you could possibly want. I mean, it's all right there in Orlando. So, I mean, time of year for sure. If you're not in the Southern Belt and you're a northerner like me, or up the Eastern Seaboard, or anywhere really, I mean, it's getting hard to find a warm place in January, but to get down south, and it's a great excuse to get out of the cold and come down and enjoy, one of the world's largest collector car auction and everything that Orlando Kissimmee proper has to offer. It's pretty good timing.
That's a great way to, sell it to your other half, your spouse, whatever. Say, no, you can take the kids. No, I'll be over there. You can have fun. Just here's the credit card. Go enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, I appreciate you coming on and talking about this very special car, because it's going to be, this is a moment in history. It's one of those things that only comes and happens every so often. And I think this is going to be a really special moment. This car is going to it's going to be strong, and I'm really excited to see it, because not just this one, but all the other Ferraris going to be crossing the block. I mean, this is a moment in Ferrari history in regards to what's going to be happening, because there's a lot of special vehicles, not just the GTO, but obviously that's the headliner. So, and it's a spectacular car, and you guys, I mean, that thing's going to be out. I want to say that so people can actually see it prior to the auction, like during the week, and that it'll be in its own little spot. Correct?
Yeah, it'll be on display. We've got a great display plan for it, so it'll be a great centerpiece to the auction event display area. So yes, it'll be right there for people to see in person, right in the front and center.
You can get all your TikTok and Instagram photos and that, and spread them all out there to your heart's content. So, but again, I appreciate you guys coming on. Fantastic. I look forward in a couple of weeks. We're going to come back. We're going to visit the Bachman collection, which is also going to be crossing the block down in Kissimmee. So, and that one's going to be spectacular in its own right. Just what the quality and what the cars are in that collection is unbelievable. And Chris will be back, Sam will be back, and Don will be back. And maybe we'll get Don to speak a little bit more in regards to what's going on. But again, I appreciate it, guys. It's been great.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon. Appreciate, and to everyone listening, appreciate you tuning in, and stay tuned till next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, William.